Welcome and welcome back. You're watching Buy Now Sell Now and we're hitting the query segment. We are live on all social media platforms, and if you're tuning in, then you should ask your questions. Do remember to post your name in case your handle does not contain it, and remember to ask us your stock queries with a duration in mind. Tell us if it's short term or long term in nature. I'm going to start with something that we've gotten on mail though. We've got a mail from Sethu Ramalingan, and he's asking about TVS Motors. What at levels of 80 per share can he hold or book partial profit? Coming to you on this one, Gaurang, on the fundamentals, would you say that he should hold on to this, or should he book partial profits and move to something else?
So I think on a long, if you have time by your side, Alex, I don't think you should be in a hurry to book profits. This is of course totally subjective to the time horizon that the investor has in mind. But given the fact that the numbers were something that were extremely strong, and the outlook for two-wheeler business is even stronger given the shift towards private mobility, and e-scooters are something that are very hot in demand. And as we go forward, Alex, I think the demand for two-wheeler, especially in the EV segment, is going to even grow at multiple levels. So if you have time by your side, stay invested. Why rush in and book some profits?
Our next viewer query is coming from Palash Agarwal, and this is on YouTube. Palash is saying that whether it's a good time to enter or wait for more correction, and this is with regards to alkaline amines. What's your take on this particular counter, Kunal?
Nominal chart, alkaline amines. I remember, looking at the stock. I think a couple of days back, 2 or 3 days back, when it was at 6,000 levels, and I think in a matter of 3 or 4 days, it had shot up to almost 7,800 or 8,000 plus, which I think, if I'm not wrong, the stock has tested. So it's a stock which is into a strong momentum. Long-term charts have been exceptional. It's difficult to try and chase these kind of names because the momentum is so high that even if you tend to miss out for timing the stock, say for a couple of days, you tend to buy the stock at a 15-20% high. So the risk reward becomes a bit more skewed for these kind of stocks. But I would suggest that if you wait for a good amount of correction, so I think if the stock comes back to, say for example, its 50-day moving average, say for the next over the next 1 or 2 weeks, then I believe it could be a good level for you to buy. So rather than chasing momentum, I would suggest wait for corrections to enter the stock.
Okay, we've got a question right on the top on YouTube from Santi, and this one is for you, Gaurang. He's asking about PNC Infra, and he's bought 50 shares of the counter at 228. From what I can see, let's look at where it's trading right now. It's not too far away from his buy price, around 242 or thereabouts. But his question is, based on what we've seen on raw material prices, metal prices going up and all of that, is that likely to affect its profitability and therefore its EPS down the line? And what would your stop loss be on this if you have coverage?
So in the infra space, Alex, we are positive on PNC Infra, KNR Constructions, to name a few stocks. And any price rise in input cost gets passed on to the end consumer or a customer. Given the order book, execution capabilities, capacities, and the theme that government of India has in mind of Bharat Nirman and the budgetary allocation towards infra development and modernization. Only thing is that this is a sector wherein you should have at least 1.5 to 2 year time horizon. And if you have that kind of a time horizon, stay invested. If you get dips, you can add on to the stock. Don't get into infra stroke construction space from a short to medium term point of view, because there's a constraint over there. And there's a concern immediately right now with the reverse migration of labor that is going back to their hometown. But this is short to medium term negative. Long term, hold on to the stock and add on dips.
All right, our next queries come from Shanmuga Sundaram, saying that he holds 25 shares of AstraZeneca at 3,800 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he can continue to hold on to this particular counter for the next 6 months. Kunal, what's the take on AstraZeneca, and how are the charts looking?
So I think it's been a very, very stable chart for AstraZeneca. I think it moves into very staggered and slow phases of uptrend. So if you are in from a longer term haul, then I believe it makes sense for you to hold on to the investments on the stock, because the stock is finally managing to recuperate the last 3 months of losses. So I think if I'm not wrong, the previous 3 months, except for the month of April currently, the stock had been on a downtrend. So it's trying to repair and recover some of the losses in that aspect. So it's now into a recovery mode. Possibly the stock can come back to 4,400, 4,500 in the very near term. But specifically, I think if your time horizon is restricted to 6 months, I would suggest taking out profits at 4,500 kind of levels. Only if you can extend your time horizon to say 1 year plus or 2 years plus, then I believe it makes sense to hold on to it from a longer term view.
Okay, we've got another question. This is a recent listing, Gaurang, MTAR Technologies. Anup Kumar has got this question. He has added 20 shares at levels of 945 and will be adding more for the long term. He's asking whether it's the right decision or the right stock to put your money on for the long term.
A disclosure, Alex, on the IPO, we had a subscribed long term and the sector or the companies or the areas to which this company caters to, MTAR Tech, I think there are very few competitors, and in some areas where this company executes platforms, they have got their own monopoly. So don't be in a hurry. If you have time, hold on to the stock. I think if you are looking at 3-year, 5-year perspective, then you can do a SIP into this counter. Given the outlook of business and execution capability capacity, I think you should turn out to be a great winner in terms of stock identification, stock picking, and also in terms of earnings growth.
Next viewer query is from Parth Shah saying, what's your long-term view on Anupam Rasayan? Gaurang, today there was a news flow on Anupam Rasayan. We flagged it off even in the cloud segment. What's your take on this particular counter over the longer term?
So even over here, Cheryl, we had a subscribe on the IPO, again from a long-term point of view. And I was also keenly listening into the commentary which the management gave before and post IPO. The business outlook looks quite robust and strong. Equally strong is the capability in terms of earning visibility. Very recent listing, there could be certain concerns on higher level because people who got into this counter with leverage money would want to exit at elevated levels. But long term, I don't see any difficulty, and I see strong earning visibility coming through. So hold on to the stock and add on dips.
Okay, Gaurang, I'm coming back to you on this one. We've got Dharmendra Upadhyay, who's bought BHEL at levels of 46. Now, in the very recent past, you've seen a spike in the stock price, right? If I look at the last week, it's gained as much as 9%, but it's actually had a reasonably good run. In fact, quite a good run over the last 1 year also. It's a doubler. What is the long-term prospect, though? Would you say that you should hold on? Would you say that you should buy more of the stock?
So Alex, again a disclosure, we have a sell on rally on BHEL. You are absolutely right. I think from closer to 20 odd levels, the stock has been a doubler. But if I have to look at a larger picture, that is maybe 2-year, 3-year kind of past track record, then this stock has been an absolute wealth destroyer. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if you do want to get into a PSU company, then our sense is that BEL would be a better stock. So if you are maybe in the money or maybe wanting to lighten up on the stock on rallies, then I would advise to do that and switch over to BEL from a long-term perspective.
We have a next query from Shubhay saying that he's bought Granules India at 340 rupees per share. Fundamentally, it looks good, but what's your review on this particular stock, Gaurang?
So again, Cheryl, pharma company, mid-cap pharma company, we've been recommending it right from 200 odd levels. In the last maybe 6 odd months, you saw phenomenal rally and then a consolidation profit booking. Closer to 300, your downside risk becomes absolutely limited. And if you have gotten at elevated level, then use dips to add on to the stock. We have a target of somewhere close to about 410 to 430 from a long-term perspective.
So we have a bit of an issue with Kunal's line. We are trying to get him back, but Gaurang, in the meanwhile, let me come back to you on this one. We've got Shubh Mathur asking about GMM Pfaudler. It's an interesting stock, right? Do you have coverage first of all, and would you say that it makes sense to buy into this counter for the long term?
So, Alex, I would say this: it's a strong company with great visibility in terms of growth. Management is absolutely clear in terms of how they want to take the business forward. There were certain news flows for which the stock rallied to a great extent, and then it corrected because of certain news flows on the negative side. Unfortunately, we don't have a fundamental coverage, so I can't advise on buy, sell and hold. But I've looked at the balance sheet and that looks very strong.
Next query is from Mahesh Vaidyanathan. He's saying he's holding Poly Medicure for a longer term. He's holding from the levels of 500 rupees per share. Gaurang, this particular counter right now is hovering, actually it's trading over 1,000 rupees per share. What's your long-term view on Poly Medicure?
Well, again, no specific coverage over here, Cheryl, but I think stocks that rally in a short span of time, there does come a situation in time wherein they are faced with profit booking. So if you are of a short to medium term kind of an investor, maybe take your money off the table, and I think the stock that we discussed, Axis Bank, amongst the private sector banks, would be a great stock to reinvest or redeploy your capital into from a long term perspective.
Gaurang, I remember speaking to you about Tata Motors, and I remember speaking to you when this counter had plumbed the absolute depths, and you had always maintained that you have a buy call on the counter, and that perhaps to a certain extent you were disappointed with the way that it was being trounced. Nitish Ghosh has got a question on Tata Motors. Would you buy at this juncture also?
Well, I was positive then, I am now, and I will remain positive in the future as well, Alex. And thanks for recollecting that conversation that we had when the stock was an untouchable, correct me if I'm wrong, amongst the auto universe, Tata Motors. There has been great visibility in terms of launches, both in the passenger vehicle segment, light commercial, medium commercial vehicle, and heavy commercial vehicle. The premium segment, JLR, is facing headwinds because of certain circuit issues, but that's a short to medium term negative. If I was a long-term investor, I would definitely recommend to get into it. But only thing is, Alex, don't deploy all your money at one time. These are uncertain times, and these kind of times always, cautious us in terms of investing in the equity market with some discipline. So deploy maybe 30-40% now, and on dips you can add on to Tata.
All right, I believe we have Kunal back on the line. Welcome back, Kunal. A lot of queries coming directly at you, and I'll club this query. We have one query coming from Rajan Vittal saying that he has about 100 shares of Motherson Sumi that he's purchased at 225 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he should continue to hold on to it, should he add more stock, or should he exit? And also you have a similar query coming in from Ajit Panda saying that he's also purchased Motherson Sumi 100 shares at 167 rupees per share. What should he do with the counter?
The queries, I'll probably answer it and give a view that I think Motherson Sumi is a fabulous stock. I think the chart has done, or the stock chart has done phenomenally well. I remember very, very clearly, I think 3 months back or 4 months back, the stock was at 167 or 170 when the results came out for the stock, and it just went into a different tangent altogether, moving up from those levels of 160, 170 to a zone of 240 approximately. From there on, it went through a natural cool-off or a mean reversion process. But when these kind of a strong uptick happen to the stock price, it generally sets the tone for many quarters to come by. So I'm extremely optimistic on Motherson Sumi, and I would believe that the stock has capacity to come back again and cross that 240 mark pretty soon. So would suggest a hold on Motherson Sumi for both of the viewers who have invested into the stock. I think at least a modest target of 240 should be looked at on the upside as a target range. And if you have a higher time horizon, say for the next 1 year or so, then I would probably believe that even 275 to 280 is a possible target for Motherson Sumi.
All right, let's go back to Gaurang. Gaurang, this is a question from, I think this is Seema, and she's asking about Praj Industries, and she's right when she points out that it's risen very, very quickly in a very short period of time. This is perhaps one of those counters that you're talking about, right? It's been a doubler in the year-to-date period. She's asking if it's overvalued at this point, and should you then shift money, if you've invested in that, to something like an NCC?
So Alex, we had a coverage on Praj, and you are absolutely right, and the investor is also right that it has overshot all the expectation, and that is more or less because of the policy changes in terms of blending of ethanol and the company's capability of manufacturing equipment and machineries to enabling that. Now coming to the valuation, well, I do feel that it is overstretched in terms of valuation. And if you have got into Praj Industries at lower levels, and if you are not greedy for more, then take your money off the table. And the stock pick that she has done, NCC, we do have a positive coverage over there. The only thing is, like I mentioned in PNC Infra, Alex, that if you're getting into construction, infrastructure related sectors and companies, then you need to have at least 1.5 to 2 year time horizon, given the kind of backdrop of events and the overhang from a short to medium term on infrastructure construction sector.
There is the next query coming in from Ritesh Garg, a very interesting one, Gaurang. He wants to know what's the prospects of PVR, considering that new movie Radhe also will be releasing on OTT platforms. So any scope of rally? I'm doubtful on PVR, but does it have any impact on PVR?
Speaking, Cheryl, first a disclosure, we do have coverage on PVR in the multiplexes arena amongst the entertainment exhibitor category. But the problem is the second wave or the third wave and the restriction in terms of allowing footfalls into multiplexes. And the other negative, Cheryl, is the downtrend in terms of revenues from F&B, that is food and beverages, because there are restrictions over there as well. So why do you want to be a Robin Hood in an uncertain times, want to venture into multiplexes, whether it is PVR or Inox? I don't think you should do that. You should wait for clarity to come through and only then get into it. If you do want to get into some stocks and sectors, then we spoke about Axis Bank amongst the private sector bank, Infosys, TCS, ICICI Pru Life is something that we recommended. Other than that, I think in the specialty chemicals universe, we are extremely positive on PI Industries. So if you want, you can pick from these sectors amongst the stocks that we have had discussion from a long-term point of view. PVR and multiplexes, hospitality, aviation, rules and travel related sectors are as of now avoid till we have clarity.
Request you to keep your answers a little brief now, because we're going to try and slip in as many questions as possible. We've got Mr. Srinivas on YouTube, who's first of all complimenting Kunal for his observation on Axis today and asking about Gujarat Fluoro, Kunal, about 500 stocks shares at levels of 280, which I think is a pretty attractive buy. Can they hold for 1 year, and what level can they sell at?
Absolutely. I think the stock has done pretty well for itself. You've bought it at I would say a good price for the stock as well, just at the cusp of where the momentum breakout actually happened out for the stock. So I would suggest a hold, and probably you can look at a further 15 to 20% upside, provided your time horizon is 1 year.
Next query, Kunal, is coming from Ashish Pandey. He's saying he's bought 150 shares of Reliance Industries, which he's averaged at 2100. He wants to know whether he should continue to hold for profit, or should he exit when the investment price is achieved?
Average it out further and increase your holdings and lower your cost price. I, for one, believe that Reliance Industries and the underperformance was just a matter of time that the stock would cover up such a huge period of underperformance, not just magnitude, but even period of underperformance. And I believe if the markets are going full throttle on the upside, then it's just a matter of time that even Reliance Industries would participate. We're seeing good signs in the last couple of days, so I believe that the stock should be good to move another 10% at least higher over the next 1 or 2 months. So if you have specifically short-term horizon, then I would suggest you to average and then look out for at least a 2,200 to 2,250 kind of a target range on Reliance.
All right, Gaurang, coming to you on this one. Raghu is holding on to shares of ONGC and ITC. Now, should Raghu hold on for the long term?
Well, we are positive on both from a long-term perspective. And I think ONGC, there are a lot of news flows also. ITC has been an underperformer, but we believe that the contribution from minus tobacco and cigarette businesses now thing of the past, and the other businesses should start to contribute. If I'm not mistaken, we are targeting 265, 270 on ITC from a long-term point.
Thank you so much, Gaurang, and sorry to have kept you waiting for a little longer than we had anticipated. It's been a pleasure speaking to you as always. Kunal, thank you so much for taking the time. On that note, we're slipping into a short break. Thank you so much to the viewers who've tuned in. Do come back tomorrow. We'll take more queries. For now, we're slipping into a short break.